The Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, everyone? You are watching and listening to The Morgan Thomas Show. I know what you're thinking right off the bat. What in the world is Morgan doing by himself tonight? It's the 1-year anniversary of The Morgan Thomas Show, and he has to do it by himself. Well, reluctantly, my co-host and good friend Alan Adams decided to, we both agreed. I guess I wouldn't say we both agreed, but I told Alan to take the night off because his wife is dealing with the flu right now, and he's got 2 little girls. And I said, you know, if we're a Clemson football show, and Clemson football is all about family, then we got to put family first. Even though we enjoy doing the Clemson football show, we got to put family first. And in this case, I told Alan to bow out and take care of the family. You know, it is the Christmas Eve, so it's an important week coming up. I hope you guys are excited to get all your new presents and give your new gifts to all your family and friends this week. I'm excited for Christmas. I hope I get some new clothes. Once you get older, it seems like it goes from toys to video games, then to just clothes. I guess I'm just kind of boring, but I don't mind clothes now. But again, this is the Morgan Thomas Show. We're streaming over in Greenville, South Carolina, wherever you may be watching or listening to the show. Welcome. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, and anywhere you listen to podcasts, and also 105.5 and 97.5 The Roar FM as a replay later on in the week. Actually, this week, I believe, because of the holidays, we won't have a replay on The Roar. So you'll get to, if you missed the show tonight, you'll be able to listen to it as a podcast. So make sure you tune in. Again, my co-host and good friend, Alan Adams, taking the night off. I'm giving him a rest. But I noticed as I was sharing, Big Al, you're out there. You're in the crowd. And so is Maribeth. So I hope you guys are at least snuggled up next to a warm fire, watching the show on your big screen TV and enjoying some hot cocoa or watching whatever, just having fun. Maybe not watching me. Maybe I'm not interesting enough. I don't know how this is going to go by myself. It's been about 7 months, right? 7 months. It's been since March that's not 7 months, about 9 months. 9 months since I had to do this show by myself. And I started the show by myself, and that's a big deal for tonight. It's not actually the 1 year anniversary. It is a little bit past. So I went and looked back because I thought it has to be the 1 year anniversary because I started this show. My first show ever was to talk about Clemson versus Oklahoma in the college football playoffs. And some of you might have been there. I only had 5 people watching live, but it was still a great show. But this time last year, I started my first episode, had about 5 people watching, very grainy footage. I will spare you from watching that. But we slowly progressed, talked about Clemson versus Alabama, and then had the amazing privilege to talk about Clemson Clemson winning the national championship rather, and then rolling into Clemson basketball and Clemson football, or Clemson baseball and Clemson recruiting. And it's just taken off from there. Back in March, like I said, Alan joined me, and it grew from there. And then we met Mark Childress and got hooked up with Ben Milstead and Deborah Jones over at The Roar. So we really appreciate that partnership as well. And all of our partnerships with all of our sponsors. Talking about our sponsors, we have a primary show sponsor, and that is Black's Tire Inc. They're family-owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, check out Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Give them a call, 864-647-9292, and they'll make sure to take care of you. Let them know that the Morgan Thomas Show sent you there. I have worked with Preston and Dale for many years, and they have helped me with my car, my wife's family car, so go check them out. Past Clemson Stadium, past Seneca, up into Westminster, right when you get into Westminster, right there on the right. So go check them out and let them know that the Morgan Thomas Show sent you. We would really appreciate that. And we appreciate the sponsorship going through to January. So thank you so much, Black's Tire, for sponsoring the show. Let me check out everybody on Facebook. Now, again, normally we split this show up between me and Alan. And I know Alan's just laughing right now at all the stuff I'm doing by myself. I've never done this much by myself. See, when I did this by myself before, we were just streaming on Facebook alone. But now we have Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, all at once. And so there's a lot going on. Let me check in with everybody, if you don't mind. Let's go over to Facebook and see where everybody's at. Now, we got 16 people over on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining tonight. We have a great show. It's going to have so many special guests, including Mark Childress and Ellis Tolbert and a few others. I'm going to hold on and not tell you exactly who's going to be on. But if you've been paying attention to our social media, you'll know. But let me check in with people who are already on the show. You got my dad. Thank you for joining, Dad. Kevron Harris, one of our first ever fans for the show. Thank you, Kevron, for joining. Dean Cox, thank you so much. He will be on later tonight. Alan Adams, Dean Cox, you've got Mary Beth, as I said, Mark Childress, Mark Burris, David Beam, B.E. Parham, David Smith, Toby Humphreys, another one of our first fans there. Actually, Toby Humphreys was part of the show when we started the show. When I started the show by myself. So he was one of those 5 guys that was watching. Him and I believe Matthew Harrison and Nick Cullen, all guys that started from the beginning. Debbie Adams, thank you for joining. Al Kuhn, always. Nick Cullen there. Libby, thank you so much for joining over on Facebook. Let me check out over on YouTube. We got a bunch over on YouTube. 18 right now on YouTube. Clemson Carson, Toby, Jason Priester, Randy, thank you so much for joining. If you've jumped in and you're watching and you're like, what is going on right now? Just give us a shout over in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know how long you've been a Tiger fan. Let us know what you think the prediction between Clemson and Ohio State's going to be. I'd be interested to know that, because we're going to talk about, that's all we're going to talk about tonight is Clemson versus Ohio State. And I'm going to check over on Periscope. I don't really know exactly how to find out how many viewers I have on Periscope, but so we'll just leave it at that. I don't know how many I have going right now, but I hope that you're enjoying it wherever you're watching it, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much for joining and supporting the show. But again, tonight's show is really not about just the 1 year anniversary by any means. Tonight's show is about Clemson versus Ohio State, which is the big game of the weekend. This Saturday, 28th, Clemson versus Ohio State for the college football playoff semifinals. And that's what we're going to be talking about all this show. And when my special guest comes on in a few moments, we're going to talk about that with them. Again, first segment, we're going to have Mark Childress and Ellis Tolbert coming on the show later on tonight. But I wanted to talk about Clemson versus Ohio State and kind of give you my sound. I want you to be my sounding board for tonight, because I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm looking at the social media feed, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, and some YouTube comments about Ohio State and how Clemson might as well not even play this game. They're just as unlikely to win the game as Oklahoma is unlikely to win the game against LSU. This game is a wrap in Ohio State fans' minds. Now, there are a few. You get a few that come out and say, Clemson has a chance. It's going to be a scary matchup. But then a lot of them come out and say, hey, look at Ohio State's history. 17 national championships won. Tons of talent on the offensive side. Apparently, according to Ohio State fans, every player on the field on defense is going to the NFL first round. All 11. 11 players all going to go to the first round. And I'm just not buying it. I don't know. Let me know what you think over in the comments, over on Facebook and YouTube, Twitter. I'm not buying it. For me, I don't see how Ohio State is going to come out a winner in this game. Now, I know this is a Clemson show, and I'm a Clemson fan, and I'm a Clemson graduate, and so I have a lot of things biasing me over towards the Clemson sideline. And I'm okay with that. Actually, I'm proud of that. But it's not just the Clemson bias that's causing me to say that Clemson is going to win the game, and I believe win the game by more than 7 points. I know the spread right now is -2. We're going to talk to some of our special guests tonight and ask them what they think their predictions are for the game. But when I break it down, I look at Clemson's offense. Trevor Lawrence, yes, he's a sophomore, but last year's game against Notre Dame and against Alabama. See, a lot of people forget that this offense is very close and similar to the offense of last year. Trevor Lawrence had an amazing game against Notre Dame. He had an amazing game against Alabama. If you look back, he combined for over 670 yards passing and 6 touchdowns in both of those games in the playoffs. This is a true freshman we're talking about. This is the type of guy that's going to go in the first round of the NFL draft and quite possibly the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft when he's eligible after his junior year. So you look at the quarterback play, and that is a key decider for me. Now, I know Justin Fields is good. I know Justin Fields has had success, but he's also nursing an MCL injury that he had that they say he'll be back 100%. And a lot of people are saying on the Ohio State side, it's because of that MCL injury that Ohio State struggled against Wisconsin. I'm not buying that either. I'm sorry. I don't believe that sprain caused some of the sacks that Wisconsin was able to do. I don't believe that sprain of MCL allowed Jonathan Taylor to have over 7 yards per carry rushing. I don't believe it. This all NFL first round defensive line, I'm questioning it. And I believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to find places where he can pick on Ohio State. And I'm going to talk about one specific place. But I believe that there will be places where Clemson can pick on Ohio State, and they will. starting with Trevor Lawrence. Moving over to Travis Etienne. Now, I know a lot of people, even on the Clemson side, are saying, well, Travis Etienne he's probably not going to have a lot of chances against Ohio State because Ohio State has a huge defensive line. They have Chase Young. And he is amazing, and we should bow to him, and we should maybe just give up running the ball altogether. But Travis Etienne is going to have opportunities to rush the ball in the game, no different than Hassan Haskins for Michigan. He had over 6 yards per carry against Ohio State. That's pretty successful for a running back who's not really the best running back in there. I believe he converted to a running back from, I believe, a linebacker position. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know he at least converted. I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to get Ellis Tolbert on the line to let me know exactly where he converted. But Hassan Haskins is not a traditional running back like Travis Etienne. And then you look at Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor ran it for over 7 yards per carry against Wisconsin in the biggest game of their season in the Big Ten championship game on a neutral site. Now, you're telling me that Jonathan Taylor and Hassan Haskins can do it, but Travis Etienne can't because Chase Young. I don't believe it. I'm calling you on it right now. Coming this Saturday, I'm looking for Travis Etienne to have a big game, and I believe he will have a big game. If you look at the blueprint of what those two teams did, they molded their offense, the run game, against Chase Young. Now, that's where I'm going to give him credit. Yes, offenses have to go into the game, and offensive coordinators have to look and say, hey, Chase Young is there. We need to design plays around him because we can't go through him. He's a massive human being, and he is definitely a top-level NFL draft pick, an elite player. So I'm not saying that he's a terrible player. I'm not saying that he's not worth looking at, or Clemson can just ignore him. But what I am saying is that Travis Etienne can have success, and don't let anyone tell you that he can't. Now, we don't even need to talk about T. Higgins and Justin Ross, but I'm going to tell you a name right now. Damon Arnett, a graduate, 6 foot tall, 195 pounds. Ohio State fans say he's a graduate. He came back when he could have went to the NFL. He's an elite cornerback, and he is going to dominate and possibly get some turnovers from Trevor Lawrence. I say, let me see what a 6 foot, 195 pound cornerback can do against a 6'4", 205 pound wide receiver in Justin Ross, or a 6'4", 215 pound wide receiver in T. Higgins, because you're going to have to decide. Because they're probably going to be on the field at the same time. And we all saw what happened when they were on the field at the same time in a big situation against Alabama. It was big-time plays and big-time points for the Clemson Tigers. So what I'm saying to you, Ohio State fans that have been jumping on me on Twitter, is saying that Clemson just needs to give up. I need to go ahead and buy my tickets for next year and move on from this year. I say, not so fast. Hold on a minute. Because at least you forget that this offense is not much different than the offense that hung 44 points on Alabama. The defense, on the other hand, is completely different, and we'll get into that more in the show. I'm looking over on our call-in studio, and we've got our callers in right now. I'm going to pull on Mark Childress and Ellis Tolbert. Thank you for waiting on. So let me pull them on real quick, and let me get them on the show. Mark, can you hear me?
Sure can. What's going on?
I appreciate you coming on the show. Mark, say that again. Can you hear me so I can make sure the audio is good?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly well.
All right, good. So I can hear you coming in through the audio mixer here on our end, so I believe that our fans can see it. Again, I'm running the show by myself solo because I let Alan have the night off. But thank you so much for joining the show, Mark. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to bring Ellis on as well. All right, Ellis, are you there?
Good to go, man. How about you?
I'm doing good. We are currently live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, anywhere that you can get live streaming. We got 18 people checking us out on Facebook right now. Got about 22 people checking us out over on YouTube. And I can't ever figure out on Periscope how many people we got watching, but I'm going to go ahead and say we probably have 1,000 people watching us over on Twitter and Periscope. So, don't be scared today. I know it's a big show, and that's just a guesstimate from my end. But Mark and Ellis, thank you so much for coming on for segment number 1. I'm going to kind of do this where I start off with, I'll ask a question for you. And if you don't mind, let's start with Mark answering the question. And then Ellis, you give your side of the story as well, if you don't mind, guys. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the first thing I wanted to ask you guys, and I hope you guys heard my rant here a little bit, because a lot of Ohio State fans are saying that Clemson fans just need to hang it up. They have no better chance than Oklahoma has a chance of winning against LSU. We basically need to go ahead and buy tickets for LSU and Ohio State, and go ahead and buy. And Clemson fans need to just worry about next year's IPTAY dues. And so, first of all, I want to say is that everybody is saying that Clemson needs to watch out for Justin Fields, and that they're not going to be able to stop him on third down, whether it be third down and short and third down and long. Now, I agree that he's going to be a key factor, but when you hear someone say that Clemson can't stop Justin Fields, Mark, I'll hand it over to you. What's your first thought?
Well, my first thought is that when you give Brent Venables, I mean, this is as cliche as it gets, right? But when you give Brent Venables, 3-4 weeks to prepare for somebody, I get the feeling he will make Justin Fields extremely uncomfortable, if nothing else. I don't think stopping Justin Fields is realistic, but can you slow him down enough? Can you make him uncomfortable? And in my opinion, can you force him to beat you through the air? I mean, Justin Fields in the open field on busted plays, that's probably Ohio State's best offense. If you go back and look at the Penn State game, so many third down, designed runs, so many busted plays where Fields got out of the pocket and picked up big yardage. That, to me, is the key. So can you stop him? I'm not sure. Can you contain him? Yeah, absolutely. I would put some money on Brent Venables doing a very good job with that. And number 11, Isaiah Simmons, I think would have a lot to do with that as well. And, oh, by the way, let me go first on all the questions because Ellis is the really smart guy. So I'll get my stuff out of the way, and then we'll let Ellis, the really smart guy, come in with, the important stuff. So, Ellis, I'll give it over to you.
Well, if anyone wants to talk about, if you're a Clemson fan and you're looking at this and you're hearing you can't stop Justin Fields, well, it's going to be difficult to do that. And the best quarterback I could compare that to would be Bryce Perkins. These guys are very similar. Bryce Perkins is not as accurate as Justin Fields, especially when you look at it from a touchdown-to-interception ratio, but both guys are very athletic. Now, honestly, when you look at Justin Fields' stats, he doesn't run the ball a whole lot, and that's by design. They don't want to get him hurt because Chris Chugunov is not going to win a game for them as a backup. It's not going to happen. So they want to make sure he's protected, especially in a game like this when you're going up against the most elite defense you've seen all season. I kind of agree. I don't think you stop Justin Fields, but I also agree that with what you said about Venables, there's just too much time for him to game plan against something like that. You look at the difference between the first time that Wisconsin played Ohio State and the second time. Of course, both first halves were really good for the defense, second half falling apart. But it's because they were running the ball pretty consistently with both J.K. Dobbins and Master Teague. I imagine that if Clemson can get Ohio State one-dimensional, it's over.
Yeah, I agree completely, Ellis. Thank you so much, Ellis and Mark, for that in-depth interview. Now, let you know we're over here on Facebook, YouTube, and and Periscope and Twitter. So make sure you check us out and anywhere you can check out any live shows. I appreciate it, guys. Let me talk about this. So, Clemson versus Ohio State. It's a big game this Saturday. My thoughts are that Tony Elliott is going to be able to pull up some offensive plays that's going to get Travis Etienne in some space. Now, he might have to work around Chase Young, and I think you can't ignore Chase Young at all. But, Mark, I'll start with you. Do you agree with me in the sense that Travis Etienne could have a big game? Because a lot of Ohio State fans are saying there's no way that Travis Etienne in a run game will be able to work against Ohio State. But when I watch Michigan game, when I watch the Wisconsin game, as a Clemson fan, I actually have a little bit of hope, a little bit of excitement that Travis Etienne will have some success this weekend.
Ohio State's got a great defense, and I feel like Ohio State can either limit or take away one aspect of Clemson's offense, potentially, right? So I am really excited about the idea of Ohio State attempting to stop Clemson's run game, because that means Trevor Lawrence and his fleet of receivers are going to have monster days in exchange, right? So we said it all year. Again, it's kind of another cliche. Pick your poison. how, you're going to die a death with Clemson. I mean, I think that was even a quote from Trevor Lawrence in one of his press conferences, right? You're going to die. Pick how you want to die. So do you want to die by Travis Etienne or do you want to die through the air? It'll be interesting to me. I mean, personally, I would try and limit that aerial attack if you can, if you're Ohio State. Anything you can do, play the two safeties deep. Maybe you learned something from the North Carolina game earlier this year. Make Clemson work the ball down the field. Let Clemson run the ball a little bit if they want to, right? Travis Etienne, 15, 18 carries a game. Maybe you see him having a lot more carries in the game on Saturday if they decide that they want to limit the aerial attack. That's the way I would try to shut down Clemson. Ellis, shut down's a relative term, right? But Ellis, I'm curious if you agree. Would you try and stop the pass and almost let Etienne have a big game? And you run the clock a little bit as well, and you keep that Clemson offense from having the explosive plays.
That is precisely what Ohio State's going to do. Ohio State's not very strong against stopping teams with good running backs. Morgan talked about this earlier. It's just something that they're not built for, but they are built to stop the pass. You got a guy that's going to be probably a top 10 pick in Jeffrey Okudah playing cornerback. He's about 6'1", closer to 6'2", actually, and he's about 210. So he's a very physical receiver. I imagine he's going to be locked up or Justin Ross all night. However, the other cornerback's really good too, in Arnett. He's not very tall, but he's one of those guys that plays well in his zone coverage. The thing with Ohio State, the reason why they want to get teams in passing situations is because we've said this a couple of times. The guy, Chase Young, they want to get Chase Young in situations where he can pin his ears back and intimidate quarterbacks a little bit. Even if he doesn't get to the quarterback, they want him to get there and at least rattle a quarterback, shake his bones a little bit and start making him throw hospital balls. That's what they want. You get Ohio State in a situation where they're having to deal with the gashing up and down the field and relying on trying to stop the team in the red zone. It's not going to be good against a team that's very elite. You look at a team like Wisconsin, a pretty good running game. I think we all agree with that. However, they're not the most explosive offense. You can say the same for Michigan. You can almost say the same for Penn State, although they were playing with a backup quarterback for most of the game. I think that if Clemson can start running the ball and stick with running the ball, especially running the ball towards Chase Young. I know a lot of people are going to be like, why would you run towards Chase Young? You want to make him overcommit. If you do that, you can hit him over there on the side with some screen passes to Travis Etienne, maybe even Braden Galloway. It's going to be a good game for Clemson if they can get that running game established.
Again, you're tuning in right now. It's the Morgan Thomas Show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. Thank you so much for the support and joining us on our one-year anniversary show. Right now on the phone, we have Mark Childress and Ellis Tolbert talking about Clemson versus Ohio State coming up this weekend. And I got a question for you guys before I let you go. Thank you so much for joining me on the first segment. But before I let you go, who will score the first touchdown in the game for Clemson? And what is your final prediction for the game? So I'm putting you on the spot here. I know it's early on in the week. I know you haven't had time to think about it. But who's going to score the first touchdown for Clemson? And what will the final score be? Let me know.
All right. Well, first things first, and I will say this before we get out of here. Morgan, really proud of you, man. Happy anniversary. Congratulations on all that you and Alan have accomplished this year. I did notice that I've been on your show 2 times now, and Alan hasn't been on either time with me. So I'm going to try not to take that personally at this point, but maybe that's something I need to take up with him directly. But again, man, congrats to you. 2020 is going to be an even bigger year. I think the first touchdown of the game will be scored by Trevor Lawrence with his legs. I like the idea of Clemson moving the ball down the field and having one of those read options with Etienne where he decides to keep it himself and trots into the end zone. My final score, I've got a little bit bigger, wider margin than a lot of folks that I'm hearing, but I'm going to say Clemson 33, Ohio State 20. What say you, Ellis?
Ooh, very good, very good. I'm actually going to go the exact same route. I think Clemson's going to hit with an RPO read, especially probably to the opposite side of Chase Young. They're going to try to make the other defensive end be a little bit overly aggressive. They're going to hit him for that touchdown early on in the red zone. I've got the same kind of score. A lot of people, this is the same thing that happened last year. I remember a lot of people going, there's no way this is going to happen. And it did, so I'm happy with it. I'm going to go Clemson 38, Ohio State 28. speed, and the coaching factor does come in. I like Clemson in this one. Also, Morgan, congratulations to you, man. Proud to know you. Proud that you're out here putting out really good Clemson content. If anybody doesn't know who you are in 2020, that's going to be a shame. I look forward to working with you in the future, good sir.
Yeah, again, this is the Morgan Thomas Show with your host and producer, Morgan Thomas. On the line, we have Mark Childress and Ellis Tolbert. Thank you so much for joining us for segment number 1. I appreciate all the kind words, guys. You know, I'm out here just trying to put out good Clemson content, just like you guys are. I want to make you proud, and I'm sure you guys want to make me proud as well, and those Clemson Tiger fans out there proud of the content that we produce. And yeah, I'm looking forward for 2020. But thank you again for joining me tonight. We have about 20 people over on Facebook and about 22 people over on YouTube. And I'm not exactly sure how many people we have on Twitter, but thank you so much wherever you're watching or listening to the show. When we come back, we're going to bring on a special guest, the Hat Superfan, the Hat Dean Cox. He's going to talk about the Clemson and Ohio State game coming up this Saturday. That's right. The entire show is going to be about Clemson versus Ohio State this weekend, the big game that everybody wants to talk about. And we're going to get one of Clemson's biggest fans that you see him on TV everywhere after the break. So we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show. I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas. Tonight, we don't have Big Al, so I know you're looking and you're saying, why in the world is Morgan all by himself? But I gave Big Al the night off because his wife is not feeling too well. She's got the flu, and he's got 2 little girls, so I wanted him to take care of his family. You know, that's what Clemson is all about, is the family first, and so we want to make sure that he has time to help them out. I know it's Christmas Eve, so a lot of things are going on. Hopefully, you've got all of your presents purchased and wrapped and ready to go. I know my wife, big shout out to Audrey, she is so good at that. She gets everybody's stuff like back November 1st, so she's been ready. But I know not everybody's like that. If I didn't have her in my life, I would probably be out shopping right now and couldn't do the show. But I appreciate everyone supporting the show over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. Thank you so much for watching, wherever you may be watching or listening. Again, this is our 1-year anniversary show. A little bit right at a year ago, on December 14th, I started this show all by myself. Maybe that's why I wanted to do it by myself. I don't know. But started this show all by myself, talking about Clemson versus Oklahoma. Here we are 1 year later. Again, how blessed are we as Clemson fans to be able to talk about Clemson going into the playoffs again, this time not against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's in it, but they're playing LSU. Clemson now in it against Ohio State. We talked the first segment with Mark Childress and Ellis Tolbert about Ohio State, some of the things that the fans have been saying. Here we are in the second segment. We're going to bring on shortly our special guest, the Hat, Dean Cox, Clemson superfan. You've probably seen him all over on basketball games, baseball games, football games. We're going to bring him on in a second. Before I do that, I want to let you know that not only do I pride myself in presenting you with a great product on the air, but I also pride myself in dressing for success. So you see what I'm wearing right now. This is actually a new shirt. Tiger Sports Shop in downtown Clemson and on Tiger Boulevard hooked me up with some new gear going into the playoffs. So I want to say a big shout out to Sean and Julie for supporting the show. You can check them out over in Clemson or on tigersports.com. They have all kinds of Clemson exclusive apparel and Tiger Sports Shop exclusive apparel. So something that you may not be able to catch just anywhere online, you can get there. They definitely have the new Nike shoes when they come out, new Nike apparel, Columbia apparel. This right here is a Vineyard Vines shirt. I really enjoy it. I like it. It feels good. It's kind of like a golf polo. So I appreciate the support again from Julie and Sean. And that is Tiger Sports Shop, tigersports.com. Thank you so much for the support. They started back in September supporting the show, and we hope to continue that going through 2020. Again, we have a special guest and Clemson superfan, Dean Cox, the Hat, on the show. He's on air right now. Hat, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, what's up, brother? First of all, let me tell you, prayers for Alan and his family, because I know a lot of people got that flu. There's nothing fun about it. So, brother, we're praying for you over on that side. But for your show, Morgan Thomas Show, congratulations on 1 year. Hey, you know I did Chat with the Hat some, and we still have the Chat with the Hat show. But you guys are on every week, and I just want these fans out there to know how disciplined you have to be. I mean, my show was every 2 weeks, and it about killed me. Y'all guys are every week, and I just want them to know, man, there's some nights that Monday night gets here, and you don't feel like doing the show, but you still do it. So, man, congratulations on making it a year. It's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate.
You know what I've been doing? While I was listening to the professionals, Mark and Ellis, you know what I was doing? Making some beautiful art. Stamping $2 bills with tiger paws.
Oh, there you go. That's the kind of art you want to do. So now you're stamping $2 bills, and if you're not familiar, maybe you're a newer Clemson fan. If you're not familiar, you want to stamp these with tiger paws, orange tiger paws. They're $2 bills, and a lot of people didn't even know they still make $2 bills. But they do, and they actually still work at restaurants or at a bank for currency. But Clemson fans stamp a $2 bill on it. You actually had the inventor of the $2 bill. I believe his name was Mr. George Bennett. Is that correct?
Correct. On one of my Chat with the Hats. But I tell everybody, man, the Hat tries to get around in Clemson to everything. But George Bennett, out of all the Clemson legends, George Bennett is my idol. I mean, that guy, he started in 77, this $2 bill thing, and it's hung on, and it's bigger than ever. The Hat does not leave home on a road trip without $2 bills to give to those people. And it's amazing, how many people out there, when we get back to Arizona Friday, I know I'm going to be out, hey, you got any of those $2 bills? And so I try to take about 500 of them out there with me. And I know there's Tiger fans that could not find a bank or a stamp or something, and they're going to come up to me and say, here's $100. Let me get some of those $2 bills to give out. So it's something that I'm proud of, and I'm proud that I can carry that on for George, even though, man, he's still wide open and doing it. But, they'll call him about a $2 bill interview, and he'll say, hey, I'll give you a little bit of stuff, but I want you to call the Hat. So, it's almost like he's passed that $2 bill tradition down to the Hat. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome, and it's one of those unique things that college football brings to the game. Those unique little things that the fans do that you don't really see in any other sport. So that's one thing that I love about Clemson, along with the Rock. And now let me ask you this: so we talked a lot about Ohio State and a lot about what the fans are saying on the Ohio State side about how basically Clemson really doesn't have a chance because they're an elite team. They're a top 5 in total offense, top 5 in total defense. And they've also, what we always hear, Dean, they've played somebody. And Clemson hasn't played anybody. Now, I went back and watched the Big Ten championship game, and I noticed that somebody that they played was Wisconsin, and that somebody just happened to have a lead at halftime by 14 points. I believe it was around a little bit after halftime, was around 21-7. Wisconsin was winning. But if you talk to Ohio State fans right now, they seem to say Clemson has no chance. There's no way they're going to get ahead 14 points. And I wanted to ask you, do you think that that's a reasonable expectation that Clemson can get ahead by 14 points on this Ohio State elite Ohio State team that we're hearing about?
Well, and I've heard people, ESPN, talking like this is the game of the century. The winner of this game is going to win the national championship. It's between Ohio State and Clemson, probably two of the best teams ever in college football. Well, let me tell you, when you brag that you came back from 21 down and that's what you got to throw out there, first of all, you should have never been 21 down to that team. You get 21 down to Clemson, you're going to stay down because this Tiger team, let me tell you, puts the foot on the throat now. You remember back in the days when we would have a 2-touchdown lead and we would go into sit-down mode, just don't screw up and maybe we'll win. But now is keep the pedal down and put your foot on their throat. And that's the new Clemson. Today, I want to tell you something. The one guy I respect in this media business is a guy by the name of Eric McLean. And I was listening to him on another show on WCCP today. And when Eric McLean, I know he sits down, he looks at numbers. He's a numbers man like you and Adam and Mark and Ellis. He's not a fan guy like me. He's all about the numbers. So when he sat down, and today he said, I looked at it, and I didn't see but a couple of players that even compared to what they were matched up with Clemson. Now, they're good compared to the rest of the nation, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you 42-17. Now, when that came from Eric McLean, somebody who's played the game, he knows the Tigers. He knows, who Ohio State's played. That right there pretty much sealed what I was thinking but didn't want to say. I think we're going to see stuff that we hadn't seen the whole year. That Clemson, like people said, man, Clemson's bored. Yeah, you win them 45, 50 points. They're probably bored, but we got a lot of playbook that we hadn't opened, and those players are looking forward to some new bullets in that gun. So, man, I'm going to just tell you, Ohio State, go ahead and pray, but this might be one time that prayers ain't going to help them because these Tigers are hungry, and it's a job, and they're going back to get another championship, and I'll be there to watch it.
There you go. That's what I was going to ask you, too, is you was talking about stamping the $2 bill. And so does that mean I'm guessing you haven't left yet. And I know a lot of our media members are planning on leaving the late night Christmas Eve, early morning Christmas, which is a tough to do for anybody, fan or media, whatever. You want to spend Christmas Eve with your family, but, you don't want to give up Clemson going to the playoffs by any means, because of how exciting it is and how much you want to see success for the Clemson Tigers and Dabo Swinney and company. But when are you traveling out?
I'm traveling Friday. I leave Friday morning 9 o'clock, and I'll be in Arizona about 12 o'clock. So it's a direct flight straight there, no hanging around in hotels. Let's get down there and get to business. But I know you've said you like watching my live Facebook videos. So how'd you like that, watching the buses come down 85 yesterday?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. The audio was really loud because, obviously you got you got all the cars going by. But if you haven't checked out
Yeah.
Dean Cox's social media accounts over on Facebook and Twitter, he likes to do some kind of behind the scenes stuff because he gets to these events early. He has access to some of the events that maybe most fans don't get a chance to. That's why we brought him on a couple of or last week to talk about the recruiting day event that he was at, and he took some videos of the buses traveling to the airport, and I'm sure when he touches down the end of this week that he's going to give us some videos. So go check him out if you haven't already. I know he's got a ton of fans. But Dean, before I let you go, it's kind of towards the end of segment number 2, and I appreciate you joining us and being part of the 1-year anniversary for the show. But my question for you is, what is your prediction for the Clemson game? I know you talked about Eric McLean and what his prediction was. I feel like you're kind of leaning towards that same notion. Mark and Ellis seem to both agree that they think that Travis Etienne is going to have a big game. I wasn't really expecting that, to be honest. I was going to say T. Higgins was going to have a big game. Now, he may still have a big game, but Ellis and Mark came on segment number 1, said, look out, that Clemson running game is going to show you something. And back to what you said about there's a lot left in the playbook. Jonathan Taylor had 7 yards. This guy from Wisconsin had 7 yards per carry against Ohio State. He's almost ran for 300 carries this year. 299 carries this year, Jonathan Taylor. Guess what? Travis Etienne is at 182. So less than more than 100 carries less than Jonathan Taylor. So he's got a lot left in his gas tank as well. But what's your prediction for this weekend's game?
Well, and I'm gonna tell you, it's hard not to be cocky when you're a Tiger fan now. But I try not to be. But I told a guy at Lowe's today, he had on Ohio State, and he said, "Man, it's gonna be a great game." I said, "Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. We're looking forward to it." He said, "What do you think? A last-second touchdown?" And I met a guy last year before Notre Dame, and we were at whatever the pizza place is on Pelham Road. And he said, "Man, it's going to be a good game." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I think Clemson wins by 14. He was like, "What? You lost your mind." Then look what happened. So that guy today, I told him, I said, "Man, I think it'll be a 14-point game, but y'all will hang around for a while." And he was like, "Man, y'all have lost your mind." But let me tell you, Galloway, I talked to Galloway the other day, and he's going to be a part of this thing. And we're going to say, wow, this kid waited a year. We didn't miss him really because that team is so good. But look for Brandon Galloway to make a difference in this game.
All right, you heard it there first. Now, Dean Cox has got Galloway as his impact player.
He ain't going to score the first touchdown.
Okay.
First touchdown's going to be T. Higgins.
Okay, so first touchdown's going to be T. Higgins. Guys on the first segment said Trevor Lawrence. I tend to say T. Higgins as well, but I can see Trevor Lawrence knocking it out. But again, Dean, thank you so much for joining the show. Again, if you haven't checked out Dean Cox's social media, go check it out over on Facebook, Twitter. He loves to get kind of behind the scenes. Let us know what you think about the show so far. It's our 1-year anniversary. This time last year, I started a live stream like a crazy man. Like Dean Cox said, it's not easy coming in week and week out, especially during the offseason when there's nothing to talk about, or the only thing to talk about is that basketball team that Dean promised me not to bring up. So I'm not going to bring up that team. Not going to do it, Dean. But let us know what you think over in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope. We'll be right back after this. We're going to have Jason Priester and Susan Llyod to finish out segment number 3 and close out the night to continue talking about Ohio State versus Clemson, the big game that everybody wants to talk about this weekend. We'll see you on the other side of the break. What's up, everybody? We are back with the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. Well, not really Big Al. He's not with us tonight. I gave him the night off because his wife is battling the flu. So, Mary Beth, we hope you're doing good. We hope you're feeling a little bit better than you were earlier this week. And, Alan, we hope you're not running crazy over there with the girls. And hopefully, I'm imagining that you're relaxing in front of the fire with some hot cocoa, watching the Morgan Thomas Show, and just hopefully enjoying the entertainment of me trying to fumble through this all by myself. But, again, thank you so much if you're joining us over on Facebook. Looks like we have about 10 people watching over on Facebook right now. We have about 20 people over on YouTube watching. And if you're on Twitter, you can check us out, Twitter and Periscope as well. Thank you so much. This is segment number 3. Tonight is our 1-year anniversary. Again, I started this show by myself back in December 14th with only 5 people watching me live. And it's just grown from there. I've joined with my friend and co-host Alan Adams. We've also hooked up with Mark Childress and Ben Milstead and Deborah Jones over at The Roar. And so you can check out our show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, The Roar 105.5 FM, 97.5 FM, and anywhere you listen to podcasts like Apple, Google, Spotify, all those great places. But it's segment number 3, our final segment of the night before we close. Last show before the big playoff weekend, Clemson versus Ohio State. That's the game that we're concerned with the most. It's Christmas Eve, so we hope you're having a good night. But let me tell you about our segment 3 sponsor before we bring on our special guest. That's Heating and Cooling Services, Inc., family owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating and Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller and everything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer, give Heating and Cooling Services, Inc. a call today. Give Mark or Jason Trammell a call, 864-224-7655. Again, 864-224-7655. You can see it on the banner down there if you need to write it down. Alan has used Heating and Cooling Services. By the way, I just found out this nugget, that Heating and Cooling Services has serviced Tiger Sports Shop. So they are reliable. We trust them. Not only do we trust them, but our sponsors trust them. So we really appreciate them for helping us out and supporting the show going into 2020. Thank you so much, Mark and Jason, for doing that. But without further ado, I want to bring on special guest, both now, actually one newly minted Clemson Maven at Sports Illustrated writer. He's going to get started in the next couple of weeks. Jason Priester. He has a website over at ClemsonJunkies.com and also does some writing for Shaking the Southland. And then we have Susan Llyod. She is a photographer for Clemson Maven on Sports Illustrated. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Hey, how are you? And welcome to you as well, another Clemson Maven person. So we got to welcome you aboard.
Yeah, that's right.
And congratulations on 1 year.
I appreciate it.
Yes, and definitely congratulations on 1 year. That's amazing.
Yeah, I actually haven't even mentioned that to anyone on the show live, but you probably have seen it.
Did I let the cat out of the bag? I'm so sorry.
No, you did not. No, you did not.
I haven't mentioned it to anyone either.
Great. Okay. Y'all are both making me feel like I have just completely ruined it. Oh, man.
No, you haven't ruined it, but actually we have a post on Twitter I've retweeted it. I've posted it. I posted a graphic on my Morgan Thomas show and shared it on my personal. So I'm just saying I didn't say it on the live show yet. I said it. If you checked out social media by now, you've probably seen it. The secret is about as out there as Baby Yoda, so it's not a secret anymore.
Okay.
But
so I didn't let the cat out of the bag. I stole your thunder on the show. Okay, I'll pick one or the other.
But again, I appreciate it, and this is actually the first time I've really got a chance to talk to Susan. We've had Jason Priester on many months ago, and we are excited to have him back on the show again. Like I said, Alan's out for tonight. I gave him the night off because, Clemson family, take care of your family first. But I'm going to get started with some hard questions for you guys, and let's start. Susan, you go first, just to be because we're all in different locations. Susan, you go first, and Jason, you go second, and follow up after that. But Susan, again, we've been talking about Ohio State. We've been talking about how the fans on Twitter, and I know you're active on Twitter. To me, the fans seem on Ohio State's side that Clemson is overly confident. They are ridiculous. Clemson fans are ridiculous to think that a 2-point favorite is actually meaning that they are a favorite. And 2 points is so ridiculous that any Clemson fan who says 7 or 14 points is even more ludicrous of an idea. So are you seeing some of the same things that I'm seeing, and how are you handling that over there on your end?
I am seeing a lot of that. And to be honest, I'm doing what I can just not to I just try to avoid that for now, because I feel like that's going to come back to haunt them. There's that wonderful feature on Twitter called Bookmark. And so when I see things like that, it's like, oh, let me bookmark that, because that could come back as soon as 11:30, 11:45 Saturday night to haunt some of these people who have been so bold in their, and I, you know what, they're fans. I understand their confidence, and Ohio State, we can't take anything away from that team. They have been a complete team almost from the start of the year. But yeah, I think that a lot of the Ohio State fans are believing the narrative that we as Clemson fans are people who've really watched this team develop over the year, know that narrative is not true, that Clemson hasn't played anybody.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Susan, but instead of bookmarking, I screenshot. Just in case they get deleted. You screenshot it, you always have it. But
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
I don't get involved in a lot of that back and forth on Twitter. I let them talk. I'm like, another thing, like Susan said, I think it's going to come back and haunt them. I really do. I remember they were pretty overconfident a couple years ago too, and then they didn't score a point.
Ooh.
Yes, they were.
Now you bring up a good point there, because it seems like they don't really want to talk about the 31-0. They don't want to talk about that because the teams are completely different. But they seem to just consistently ignore that there's one team that's not completely different, and that is the Clemson offense. I mean, they only lost a few key, a few elements. Now I know Hunter Renfrow is a huge playmaker for the Clemson offense. And it seemed as if they had to find their own, which every team does. But they have been clicking on all cylinders since that North Carolina Tar Heel, I guess, scare, if you will. The 1 point win that will go down as I told our fans a couple of months ago that 1 point win they need to make a tombstone of that, because of how the media has made it out to be a loss, the worst loss ever. We just need to bury it. I know tombstones are for wins, but we need a tombstone for that, for how infamous that 1 point win has been. And we need a tombstone just to show everyone and prove them that it actually was a win. Because there have been Clemson games where I have seen the sideline reporter or heard the sideline reporter say it was a Clemson loss. It's almost like people want to just assume that it was a loss. But let me ask you this. So I'm seeing a lot of things about Chase Young. Chase Young, I got to say, 16.5 sacks. Amazing. I mean, how many players get that? Breaking records for Ohio State as a defensive end. But if you look back at it, 7 of those sacks came from just 2 games, Penn State, Michigan. 7 of those sacks. So he went off on 2 games. He had zeros across the board on his stat line for Michigan. I looked up to see if it was the game he was suspended. It wasn't the game he was suspended. I looked up to see if he was hurt, injured. Maybe he was sat out. It wasn't because of hurt or injury. He literally had no tackles, no sacks, no tackles for loss, no batted balls, nothing across his stat line. No interceptions, no nothing. Now I look, and a lot of the Ohio State articles are saying, well, that just shows how great he is, because Michigan had to do so much to stop him and run away from him that he had nothing on the stat board, and yet Ohio State was still able to win big. Now, I like that spin. You know, I'm a guy who's just getting into writing and sportscasting. You both are seasoned writers, and you're a photographer. I get it. Spin it any way you can, but I'm looking at some success in running the ball with Haskins at Michigan and with Taylor at Wisconsin. And again, talking about Mark Childress and Ellis Tolbert on segment number 1, they both agree that the running game for Clemson more than likely will be the key for them to have success, and they probably will have success. If you look at what those teams like Wisconsin did, yeah, they paid attention to Chase Young. They just ran away from him, and they were able to run away from him successfully. So can Clemson handle Chase Young, Susan? I've made my point on my end. What do you think?
I definitely think that he can be taken care of. We have something that Wisconsin didn't have. We have something that Ohio State doesn't have. We have something that nobody has, and that is one coach, Brent Venables. And while he's not going to get out there and play, we know what he does with his defense. We also know what and I'm sorry, I jumped to defense before I got to our offensive guys, but I know what we can do handling them offensively. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I really think that our offensive line is going to do all they can to make sure that ETN's getting his running lanes the way he needs to get them, while at the same time occupying Chase Young so that he doesn't have an opportunity for those sacks, that he doesn't have that chance to get at Trevor Lawrence. And we have to also remember, Trevor Lawrence did something this year we had not seen him do last year, and that was use his legs. And he did that very effectively. So when you've got ETN, world-class running back, who's ready to go, and then you've got Trevor Lawrence, who's making plays with his legs, extending things, and then we've got an offensive line with so much experience, I just don't think it's going to be a problem to deal with Mr. Young. And forgive me for jumping over there to Coach Venables first, because I was already thinking, ooh, what are we going to do on offense as well? But or how are we going to stop their offense? But definitely we'll be able to handle Chase Young. It's not going to be easy, and I don't want it to sound that way. We're talking about a force, but he's not a force that can't be stopped. He definitely can. We've seen it, just like you pointed out.
And what do you think, Jason?
He's a great player, but he's one guy. You can scheme around one great defensive end, and if you listen to some of the things Jackson Carman has said leading up to the game and talking to the media, you can tell he's looking forward to this matchup. It sounds like he's been looking forward to it for a long time. And I know they move Chase Young around a lot, and he won't always be on Jackson Carman, but he's going to be over on that side a lot, and it's going to be up to Carman to handle him. And if he can't, they'll have to give him help. But I imagine they'll try running right at him. There's a lot of different things you can do to offset a great pass rusher. One great pass rusher isn't going to beat this team. It's going to take a lot more than that. He might make a play or two, but I mean, Lawrence has been very good at it, avoiding pressure in the pocket, taking that step forward or taking that slide step and avoiding the pressure of whatever he's got to do, or if he's got to take off running. I mean, Young might have a sack, maybe he might have two. Getting sacked once or twice isn't going to beat you. They're going to have to do a lot more than that. It's going to take a lot more than Chase Young.
Now, I know Ohio State fans are currently saying, well, Morgan, we tuned into this show. I doubt any Ohio State fans have tuned into this show. They probably will check out the clips that I put up because I'm really, I really pride myself in the tags and SEO. So I'm going to put in some Ohio State tags in there, maybe some Ryan Day tags in there. So maybe they'll sneak up and see this show and they might get a little agitated, and that's okay. But one player we haven't talked about, we've talked about Justin Fields. Okay, we've talked about Chase Young. We've talked about Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, T. Higgins. Ohio State fans I know are screaming at me right now. I can just feel them. What about J.K. Dobbins? Just same question back at you. I'm volleying it to you, Susan, now. What about J.K. Dobbins? We talked about how we feel like that Clemson will have success running the ball. They just need to, one defensive end can't take over. Well, Ohio State fans are saying, look at Clemson. They lost 7 starters on the defense, 3 of them to the first round, 3 defensive linemen to the first round of the NFL draft, 5 overall defensive linemen. The linebacker core is completely different other than Isaiah Simmons, who is a superstar that I believe is the only player on Clemson that doesn't seem to get overlooked is, thankfully, Isaiah Simmons. But Ohio State fans seem to think you're not going to get anywhere with a 3-3-5 defense like Clemson has been doing. What do you think, Susan?
I want to give them credit for being fans and give him credit for being an outstanding running back. We see what he can do. We've seen it. But at the same time, I have watched, and it's funny, as a photographer, you see things unfold a little differently. I don't always get to see a complete play because there's, movement, and a lot of times there will be somebody who moves into my line of sight. But when I go back and look at images and see kind of how things unfold, and you watch consistently over and over, running backs that Clemson has faced this year have been consistently suffocated. And I say that because that's what it looks like on, in these images. A.J. Dillon was not, we didn't throw, and I can't think of his name now, Florida State's running back, Cam Akers, not a problem. And these were guys who have had great success in other games. But I really feel, again, that that's not going to be an issue for us. Justin Fields, as a quarterback, is going to have to be able to do a lot more than rely on J.K. Dobbins. He's going to have to rely on himself. He's going to have to look at his receivers. I think we're going to do a lot to confuse him, but we're also going to do a lot to contain Dobbins, as we've seen all throughout the season with other running backs.
Yeah, you mentioned the 3-3-5. I think we see probably a lot more 4-man fronts in this game. Mainly to slow down the running game of Dobbins, because he's good. He's going to get some yards. You're not going to shut him completely down. I wrote something the other day that I thought there were 2 keys to this game. Clemson's got to slow down the running game, and they got to slow down the pass rush, which we just talked about. Slow down the running game. That's Dobbins and Fields. You got to make sure you don't overrush Fields and leave the rush lanes open for him to escape in. And with Dobbins, you're going to have to get good linebacker play. They're going to have to be in their gaps. Going to have to play their assignments. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry. I mean, he's probably going to get some yards. I imagine we might see a game plan similar to what we saw against Alabama last year. Kind of like giving them a little bit of the run between the 20s and then tightening up on them if they get in the red zone. So he might get some yards, but I don't think he's going to have a monster night or anything like that.
Again, you're watching the Morgan Thomas Show. No Big Al tonight. He's taking the night off. I gave him the night off so he can tend to his family. His wife has the flu right now, so I want to make sure to give a shout out to Alan and Mary Beth and the girls over there. Hope you guys are doing good and enjoying the show. Right now, we have 2 special guests: Susan Llyod from Clemson Maven on Sports Illustrated, and Jason Priester, also getting started with Clemson Maven on Sports Illustrated. Hopefully we'll get a chance to have Zach on here soon and some other contributors to the website. Last question. Well, this is my second to last question, then I'll let you guys go for the night. And again, I appreciate you guys coming on the 1-year anniversary show for me. But a lot of people have also said you got to worry a little bit about the special teams. Now, I know last year special teams weren't that special either. They struggled in a lot of areas. No pun intended there. But right now, BT Potter is 63.2% from field goal. That's 128th in the nation as a field goal kicker. He's 100% from extra points, so as long as they score touchdowns, he'll be good. And he has had some long ones. His longest of the year is 51 yards. So it's not that he doesn't have the leg. We love his leg when it comes to kickoffs. I know past couple of years, especially in the Deshaun Watson era, it was very frustrating, and the Taj Boyd era, really, it was very frustrating to have a kicker that couldn't get it in the end zone, because what would happen if you couldn't get it into the end zone? Typically, there'd be a player that run the ball back, like an Alabama player or someone that would run the ball back because they couldn't kick it out of the end zone. Now, Potter definitely can do that, and we love and appreciate him for that. So not trying to pick on anyone specifically for just their negative. There's a lot of positives to number 29 in the Tigers uniform. But a lot of people are also saying, hey, if it comes down to a 2-point game, or a 3-point game like Vegas is saying, that how close it will be or could be, that a field goal is going to make the difference, and 63.2% might have you worried. Jason, I'll jump to you to lead off. What do you think?
If it comes down to us needing a field goal to win it, I'm going to be nervous. Potter's been inconsistent. I also remember another kicker that was inconsistent his first year kicking field goals, and I'm hoping Potter takes the same path he did. His name was Chandler Catanzaro. He struggled mightily his first year kicking field goals. Although he did kick when he was a freshman. Potter's not a freshman. He's a sophomore, but this is his first year kicking field goals. If it comes down to a field goal, I hope it's a longer one rather than a shorter one, because he seems to do better on the longer ones than the shorter ones this year. But yeah, that's something he's got to get better at as we head into next year. He's got to find a way to get more consistent. There's no doubt about that. He's got the leg, that's for sure.
Yeah, I am hoping that we don't have that situation where, we really don't have to worry. And I think, Morgan, you had asked earlier, could Clemson get ahead by 14 and stay ahead? And if that's the case, we're good. We don't have to worry about it. But in the event that it does come to that, and we've seen this happen in other games, not necessarily Clemson, we've seen it happen in other games this season for other teams. You just don't want to put a kicker that you don't have 100% confidence in that situation. However, I believe that Potter is I think he's gonna up his game. We honestly can't say he hasn't tried. Anybody who gets out there is going to do the very best that they can. But I think he's going to be ready. I really think that this time down, he's probably had a chance to work on that. I think he's going to be ready. I think he will be ready for a clutch moment. It's just not something that I really feel that anybody is going to put that kind of bad mojo on him from his team either. I believe he's heard a lot of positive encouragement, a lot of support from them. I think he's going to be fine. Again, we hope we don't get to that point, but in the event that we do, I really think that he's gonna come through. I have confidence in him.
All right, Susan, so wrapping it up, what is your prediction for the game? I hear a lot of positives. I know we're kind of orange colored glasses, but it's great to get your perspective, sure, like you said, because of that. Because of being a photographer on the field, like you said, you can see things differently. You take a couple of photos and you go back during the snaps and you might get to look at some of the photos that you've taken, and some of them might surprise you at what's going on. So you can see things that maybe people seeing it live definitely can't see, and people who don't get to see, like me, don't get to see it until you replay it on TV. So what's your prediction for the game? And are you heading out? I want to ask you, are you heading out to Arizona this weekend? You're heading out tomorrow? When are you heading out?
I will be leaving Christmas night around 6 o'clock. My flight will leave, and I think we have media day first thing in the morning on Thursday. So not much sleep on Wednesday night, but that's okay. And here's what I think, and touching on what you said about being able to see things that other people really don't get an opportunity to, is the determination. That when I go back and I look through, and I just kind of look through the pictures today, looking back through the whole season, there is so much intensity, there's so much focus, so much determination. Even, all the way through the game, I didn't see a moment where you felt like, oh, okay, well, they've relaxed now. The intensity is always there. And I believe that intensity is going to be the edge that they need. That is not to say that Ohio State won't be intense. I'm sure they will. But we know about Tiger intensity. We also know when that defense is mad about their last performance, which these guys are, they're not real happy about what happened when they played Virginia, even though that was a great offensive game. Our defense guys were a little upset about it and the way they performed. When we've seen that in the past, we know what happens. They come out with a vengeance. They're going to be ready. We're not going to look at a 62-17 like we did with Virginia. And I don't think we're going to see a 31-0 like we saw a couple of years back. But my score prediction is a 35-21. 35-21, Clemson.
All right, Jason, what you got?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be close first 2.5, 3 quarters, and Clemson starts to pull away toward the end of the third quarter, early fourth. I don't think Clemson's ever gonna. I don't think they ever trail in this game, but Ohio State hangs around and hangs around and hangs around. Clemson pulls away at the end. Give me 34-24.
All right, you heard it here. That's Susan Llyod and Jason Priester giving their predictions for the Clemson versus Ohio State game this weekend. Thank you so much for being on the show for not only the third segment, but for the 1-year anniversary show. It's been a great show. We've had a ton of guests, more guests than I've ever done before. And not only that, I did it all by myself without Alan. I'm just crazy. I don't know why I did that. But I really need Alan back here, so I know he's going to be back next week. So if you haven't tuned into this show before, every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we talk all things Clemson football, basketball, baseball, whatever really you want to talk about, and we interact with the crowd over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. So check us out, all those places. If you miss the show, you can check us out over on 105.5, 97.5 The Roar as a replay later on in the week, typically Thursday nights at 8. And then we have it out as a podcast as well if you'd like to just listen to audio while you're driving to and from work or while you're driving around for the holiday season this year. I will try to get the podcast up tomorrow and have it so you can listen to it as you're unwrapping Christmas presents, because I know that's what you're really worried about is getting your Clemson info going into this giant game. And Jason, Susan, again, thank you. I'm looking at the comments as you're talking, and there are so many people that are saying that they wish they could attend. I actually attended when Clemson versus Alabama, when Deshaun was there, and it was a heartbreaker at the end. With the onside kick that'll go down in Clemson history as, that onside kick that I believe changed the momentum of the game and was really the reason for Clemson losing that game, because I believe they were the better team in that game. Again, Clemson's had some failure there in Arizona, but they've had some success in Arizona. And so, Jason, have you ever been out to Arizona? Have you been to any playoff games that the Tigers have been in recently?
I went to the first one against Oklahoma in Miami. That's the only playoff game I've been to. I've been to every time we played down there in Miami. Arizona's a little too far for me.
Well, I'll tell you.
Plus, they about priced me out of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I talk to Alabama fans, talking about pricing you out, I talked to Alabama fans and I asked them, I said, man, how does it feel to get to go to so many? And they said, well, it feels terrible because after 6 of these, you don't have any money left in the savings account. and all of a sudden, you're struggling to make car payments. And so I know a lot of Alabama fans that had to hang it up and watch it from the television. Now, if Kirk and Chris are calling the game, I'll watch it all day from the television because I think it's great. But there is something about that stadium, and as Ben Milstead said, make sure you bring a jacket because it can get a little breezy in that big giant stadium. It's in Arizona, so they don't like to have heat there. There's no need for it, but it probably will be a little bit cool there. Before I let everybody go and we jump over to the post show, Jason and Susan. Susan, first, tell our fans where they can check you out if they haven't already followed you on social media.
Okay, so on Instagram, we are Clemson_on_SI. And that's the Instagram account that is connected, or as best I remember, to connect to my Twitter, which is Parkers_Tiger. And that's my Twitter account, but you can also follow Clemson at Clemson SI just to follow the Clemson Maven account. So there's a lot of places to get in touch with us. And always on the Clemson Maven, I'll have photo galleries up after every game, but there'll be some special photos in there, or special photo galleries from time to time. And then every once in a while, I'll write an article about what I've seen from the sidelines. But yeah, we love followers. So Zach Lentz also loves. I love followers. We all love followers, and so I do my best to be really, really nice and polite and try not to get too snarky. So sometimes it's hard.
And Jason?
You can find me on Twitter at JP_Priester.
All right, guys.
And I want to say congratulations to you for your being on the air for a year, man. That is awesome. And you did great on your own tonight.
Oh, I appreciate it. Bringing back to when I originally started by myself, I did it for about 4 months by myself, and I didn't really want to go back to that. It is a lot to go on. Back then, we only did one thing. We had no graphics. Now I have a bunch of graphics, and we're streaming to 4 different locations. So, but thank you both again for joining the show. I look forward to having you on, hopefully, to talk about the Clemson National Championship team in January. So that's my plan for the Clemson Tigers. And I know everybody's wondering, what is my pick for the Clemson versus Ohio State game? Well, I believe that Clemson's going to cover the spread, and I believe that Clemson is going to win. And I also believe that Clemson is going to be up in the 40s, while Ohio State's going to be maybe getting close to the 30s late in the game. So a garbage touchdown to get them to 30 points. So it could possibly be a 14-point win for the Tigers going into the national championship game. But I think leaving the game, most people will say, well, there's more like a 17 or 21-point game, and they just scored at the end. So that's my prediction for the Clemson versus Ohio State game. Let me know. Hey, am I way off base? Let me know over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, in the comments, and I would appreciate it. Let us know what your thoughts are. Do you think that Clemson and Ohio State is going to be a good game? I know a lot of people are already saying they want to go to that game. But, again, this is our 1-year anniversary show. Man, it's been a crazy year. Like Dean Cox said, you start something like this and you think it's just going to be fun, and then all of a sudden it turns into a second job. And it really does. I mean, a lot of people see this show, and I know it looks great, but Alan and I spent a lot of time on it to make sure that we have good stats for you, we have good topics for you, and it's something that you as Clemson fans are going to value, because our idea starting the show was really to say, hey, we need a Clemson outlet. We need an outlet that looks just as good as ESPN, and I hope that you feel that way, but a video show that looks just as good as ESPN, but without the SEC bias. Now, I know we got the Clemson bias, but I'm perfectly fine with the Clemson bias. So, again, thank you so much for joining the show. This is Morgan Thomas, the host and producer of The Morgan Thomas Show. Don't forget, like and follow and subscribe anywhere you can on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. We would appreciate all the love and support and subscribers. We actually have a new subscriber, Steve Cook. But that is it for the main show this week. Just checking in with everyone. We've got 19 people over on YouTube. Jumped up to about 27 while everybody was going through the segment. Got Randy still in here. everybody saying congrats for the 1 year. Dan saying congrats. Steve's in there saying congrats. Thank you so much for the love over on YouTube. Over on Facebook, we've got Kathy, Alicia, Ty, David, Jamie, Jared, Scott, all jumping in. Thank you so much for the love and support over on Facebook. Again, you can follow me at Clemson Morgan over on Twitter. That's where I like to talk about Clemson things on a daily basis. But I appreciate it so much. That's it for the show. That's it for this week. Let's have I hope you have a good Christmas Eve and a Christmas Day. Hope you get all the presents that you asked for and no coal in your stocking. And I hope that we all get that Clemson win and Clemson National Championship that we so desperately want, at number 4 on the shelf. And this is the Morgan Thomas Show. I'm Morgan Thomas, and as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.